Greetings, everyone. Welcome to what I believe is an awesome opportunity for so many brothers and sisters to express themselves and to provide us enormous resources in this incredible platform, Shay Brown's Happy Entrepreneur. There just is nothing like it. And it comes from a person whose heart is always thinking about us. And I am so glad that he asked me to give a message for today, and I'm going to do my very, very best. So thank you, Shay. Love you. Keep doing God's work. This talk is about comebacks, and at 75 years old, I've had at least 8 comebacks. My comeback from orphanage, my comeback from aging out of foster care, my comeback from being financially illiterate, my comeback from being a mediocre person. It just goes on and on and on. And so I want to unpack for you as best as I can 6, 7, 8 things that has led me to having what I call a connected life, and ultimately growing a multi-million-dollar network and business, and having an incredible family life, incredible partner who was with me for 32 years before he died, and of course, an incredible spouse going on 48 years. And yes, there were lots of hills and valleys and twists and turns, but at the end of the day, I made the appropriate comeback. I call it reinvention, and you're going to have to reinvent yourself as well through the various stages of life. We get 8 passages in life. Each passage is about 10 years. Let me explain that. You're a different person at 10 than you were at 1. You're a different person at 20 than you were at 10. Let us pray. You're a different person at 30 than you were at 20, 40 than 30, 50 than 40, 60 than 50, 70 than 60, 80 than 70. I'm in my 75th year, and this is one of the most productive years of my life. So we are constantly coming back metaphorically and reinventing ourselves. One of the things that I had to really come to grips with and to begin acting on was the whole notion of uh, sort of using tragedy to elevate my life, using tragedy as a way of elevating my life. COVID-19, the pandemic, we're all pivoting and all reinventing ourselves. And if it was not for COVID, there's some things that I would never thought of, never had the time to do, the time for introspection, time again for reinvention of all things FraserNet. Um, so, are you using tragedy as a way to elevate your life? Let's just take a look at COVID for a moment. So we have COVID-19, right? It has us homeschooling, praying, spending time with family, praying for others, and being sober-minded. It sounds like really that God is in control here. This is not a plague, brothers and sisters. This is an awakening. That's how I've learned to process this and to understand this. So, if you haven't noticed by now, that 2020 was designed for you to get back in touch with your soul and to raise your consciousness so that you can elevate your life, right? Let me say that a different way. In order to receive what is meant for you, brothers and sisters, you have to first become you. And this is easy to say, very difficult to do. Um, I think that we need to think about this. How are you becoming you? What are the things that you're changing? What are the things that you are doing? Have you moved from average to excellence? There's a little prayer I often give when I'm speaking to large crowds. And it's very simple. It says, "Dear Lord, today alleviate the unnecessary, interrupt the annoying, upset the status quo, assign more angels, usher in more miracles, and overthrow everything that is average." I think that we are evolving as a people into Toms. I don't mean Uncle Toms. What that means is that Toms is the toleration of mediocrity when just okay is not okay. To leave another generation worse off is not okay. Front page article in USA Today a couple of years ago about African American baby boomers. I hope you saw this, and I'll quote a passage from that article, and it said, "The African American baby boomers will be the first generation of Africans in America to raise another generation of Africans in America that will not do better than them." So, in the 400-year history of our people, we are the first generation to raise another generation that will be worse off. Our ancestors must be rolling over in their graves. You can count me out of that. And we cannot do that. We cannot allow that to happen. To tolerate a widening wealth gap between blacks and whites in America over the last 50 years, brothers and sisters, that is not okay. We are operating outside of our own spiritual thinking. Proverbs 13:22 tells us what? That a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. That is simply not okay, brothers and sisters. We can do better. We must do better. We will do better. Understand that we're all drinking from wells that we did not dig, that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. And if in fact that is the case, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we worthy of that legacy? A 250-year fight for civil rights, voting rights, and public access. A 100-year fight for, well, civil rights, voting rights, and public access, but a 250-year fight for our, fight for freedom, to get out of slavery. 1864 to 1964 is the civil rights fight. 1619 to 1864 is the fight for freedom. Are we worthy of that legacy, and or those legacies? And if you feel that we are, the question that we have to ask in our generation and future generations is, what then will be our legacy? What will our forefathers and, or I should say, our future children, our great, 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 great grandchildren, what will they be saying about us 150 years from now? We know what we're saying about those who struggled for freedom. Books and movies are still being made about them. We still talk about them. We know what we talk about when we mention Dr. Martin Luther King and the March on Washington and the crew that he had around him that ultimately executed three major bills: civil rights, voting rights, and not public access, but fair housing. So what will be our legacy? What will our children be saying about us 150 years from now? So we have to work on that, and we cannot tolerate mediocrity. Black people cannot be mediocre. Only white people can be mediocre. Look at this thing that we have in the White House and compare him to Barack Hussein Obama. There is no comparison. We have a person in the White House who is leader of the free world, who admits that he doesn't even read. He's told over 20,000 lies. So we cannot be a mediocre people. We have to be excellent. That is, in fact, what we have to be. That is what we have to do. And we have to work on building wealth in our community. Now, that will take knowledge. That will take studying. We are not suffering because we cannot resolve our problems. brothers and sisters. We're suffering because we cannot see our problems clearly and succinctly. We have been hurt more by what we don't know than by what we can't do. The Bible tells us, and you've all read this passage in the Bible, you've heard it 100 times, Hosea 4:6. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. What you and most of us have not read or heard is the rest of that passage. My people perish for the lack of knowledge, and because thou hast rejected knowledge, I also reject thee, and thou shalt be no priest to me. That is God saying to us, if we do not read, you see what's behind me, right? I'm in my office. There's 1,000 books in my office, 15,000 books in my home. I read 100 books a year. The average American reads only one book a month, a year, really, if you read one book a month. In 5 years, you will have read 60 books, and the average American will have only read 5 books. You are going to be better prepared. There was Malcolm X who said so beautifully, give your brain as much attention as you give your hair, and you will be 1,000 times better off. Well, I deeply agree with him. No question about that. So pursuing excellence is critical. At Fraser Nation, excellence for our citizens is the base. Exceptionalism is the goal. When you are excellent or exceptional, you will never have to worry about competition. People will be competing with you. You will never have to get in anybody's line. People will get in line for you. Excellence has to be our goal. That, of course, has always been the message at the Power Networking Conference, and now our new global virtual Power Networking Conference coming up October 28th through the 30th. Experts who are focused on, just like the happy entrepreneur with the resources that he provides us on a regular basis, he brings to us excellence, models of excellence, examples of excellence, tools that we can use. This is the same goal for the Power Networking Conference, 19 years old, is to focus on, and most importantly, to provide you the vessels, the instruments, and the tools to be all that you can be, and to understand that you are an awesome human being, that we are God's first people, that we were building pyramids and solving complex engineering problems when other cultures were living in caves, eating each other, that we have an ancient history that goes 6,500 years before Christ, and we have artifacts to prove it. I don't know what the ancient history is of Europeans. The oldest history that I read about in the European culture or the Caucasian culture goes back to Greek or Roman history. Is there something before Christ that we can read about that is European history? Now, we have been tricked and bamboozled. We have been told for generations that Europeans came to Africa, pulled us out of trees, eating bananas, and civilized us. Well, that is simply not the truth. We civilized the world. So you need to get that in your head. You need to understand how powerful, how magnificent, how brilliant you really are. The big critical thing that we have to focus on also is finances, closing the income and wealth gap, discussing finances, understanding capitalism and money and the psychology of money. It was one of my favorite authors and one of my favorite public intellectuals was Dr. Amos Wilson. And Dr. Amos Wilson said in 1994, and I quote, our refusal as Black people to confront the issue of money and wealth is going to end up with our very lives being threatened as a people on this earth. Boy, was he right. We have to talk about money. All kinds of statistics help us to understand that African Americans are the most financially illiterate people in this country. It was the Wall Street Journal that wrote 2 years ago that financial illiteracy is an American problem. And we know that when white folks catch a cold, black people catch pneumonia. So if financial illiteracy is an American problem and they demanded that the public and private sector do something about that, you know that it is 10 times worse in our community. Black households, for example, today earn only 61 cents for every dollar of white median income. We're at the bottom of every single economic statistic that matters in America. So we have to fix this. We are in an existential crisis, brothers and sisters. And it's not just hyperbole, it's something that all the statistics and studies have articulated and have charted and have provided data that says that we are trending in the wrong direction. The most interesting of the reports was published in April of 2017 by the Institute of Policy Studies. I don't know how many people read the report, but I read the report. And what they said, and I quote the final paragraph of that report, rewritten for Fortune magazine. And it said that by 2053, just 10 years after the country is projected to become majority non-white, Black median families will own zero wealth if current trends continue. White median families will continue to own six figures. So in effect, if we have zero wealth in our culture and community, we have effectively worked our way into a second slavery. Try to operate in a market-based economy in a democratic capitalistic society without money. It is not possible. We must fix that. We have approached this very egregious and systemic problem in the context of our culture at FraserNet by developing the WINS Wealth Building Centers and curriculum, which we're installing in historically Black churches, and now we're moving to fraternities and sororities and other historically Black organizations. We have our own curriculum that is culturally specific, one of the best curriculums with 75 modules ever written. And it is designed to begin teaching us about money, K through 12, and then every passage and every age in our culture. So we don't just pontificate ad nauseum about this issue. We actually have to solve this. You see, one of the challenges we have in our culture is that we want change without execution. You cannot have change without execution. You must execute, execute, execute. This is what Dr. King understood with all of the marching and protesting. But at the end of the day, he got his closest circle of friends, and you know who they were: Andrew Young and Julian Bond and Bayard Rustin. And there was a crew, a small crew of five, and they got 3 laws executed as a result of their marching and protesting. As I said earlier, civil rights, voting rights, and fair housing. That's execution. Protesting is important. Black Lives Matter is a fabulous saying, and we need to say it all the time. But at the end of the day, we have to get laws passed that, in fact, punctuate and bring that idea to life, certainly in the area of changing policing policies in this country. We need to think economics. We believe at All Things FraserNet that economics must become the new Black power. That's what we believe. And our actions and deeds and the gathering of some of the smartest people on the planet, some of the best African American experts on the planet in all things money, gather on a regular basis, whether they be here at the Happy Entrepreneur or whether they're at the Power Networking Conference or other socially responsible conferences for our people. Now, I don't want to just talk about it. I want to give you a couple of things that you can think about and you can act on and you can execute as it relates to changing some habits in the context of our community. Because again, we are in an existential crisis. There's no question about that. We, again, look at every single statistic and we have to fix it at the end of the day, right? Let me say this and still be loved. Until Black America puts Black America first, Black America will always be last because no one is going to save us but us. White people will not be saving Black people. White people are not even thinking about Black people. Do you know who white people are thinking about? They're thinking about white people. They're thinking about their husbands, their wives, their neighborhoods, their businesses, their schools, and your pockets. They are the merchant class and we are the consumption class. They make stuff and we buy stuff. We have to fix that. To be Black and beautiful means nothing unless you're Black and powerful. Let me say the next thing and still be loved. We cannot be Black and proud and niggas too. White folks are planning for 3 generations and we're planning for Saturday night. Brothers and sisters, the goal is to win, not to look like we're winning. I would rather carry a plastic bag with $5,000 in it than to carry a $5,000 Louis Vuitton bag with $100 in it. That's looking like you're winning, but you ain't winning. Louis Vuitton is winning. Nike is winning. Armani is winning. Gucci is winning. We must fix that. It is interesting to me that the rich stay rich by pretending to be poor, and the poor stay poor by pretending to be rich. Again, we have to fix that. And there's some things that we can do other than engage in ongoing financial education courses and classes. And there's no excuse. There are over 130,000 brothers and sisters out here who are licensed in some financial service, who can man up and woman up, get a certified financial education certification, and teach financial literacy in organizations and churches that they belong to. So we have the intellectual and man and woman power and the people power to educate ourselves. If we were having this conversation 50 or 60 years earlier, there would be a paucity of brothers and sisters who had the financial education to do the kind of teaching that is necessary. But that is no longer an excuse. We can do this. We will do this. So let me give you 3 financial rules that if you follow these rules, you will have financial freedom in your lifetime. If you follow these 3 rules. Number 1, your rent or mortgage should be less than what you make in a week. If you have a 2-income household, you put the 2 incomes together, whatever those incomes are in a week, your rent or mortgage should be no more than that. I cannot even begin to tell you how many of our people are house poor or rent poor. One of the biggest causes for ultimate poverty in our community, and in many cases bankruptcy, is we have too much house for our income. So let me say it again. Your rent or mortgage should be less than what you earn in a week. That's number 1. Number 2, only borrow money to make money. It's okay to borrow money for a home because if you keep it, it's going to increase in value. You're probably going to have to borrow money to buy a car. A car, in one sense, helps you to make money because it gets you back and forth to your place of business so that you can earn. But Nora Jean and I had a policy, an agreement that we made 48 years ago before we got married. And we vowed never to buy a new car, that we would always buy a luxury car 3 years off lease. And for us, it was a Lexus. I'm now driving an Audi. recently purchased a 3-year-old Audi off lease. We've always kept our car payments to under $200 a month. But the thing that we did that made a huge difference, that really made us one of our first $1 million, and I'm not bragging, I'm just saying it's just a strategy, is if our payment was $200 a month, but a new car payment was $500 a month, we would take the difference between the new car payment and what we were actually paying, and we would take that difference and we would invest it every month. Oh, and we've been doing that for 48 years. I cannot even begin to tell you what that investment with simple compound interest has earned us. And we never sacrificed, let's say, ego. We always had a nice car. We picked a luxury car because we knew that it would last another 10 years. And that's exactly what happened. So those are the 3 rules. Follow those 3 rules and you will find financial freedom. The other thing that you might want to understand is how to avoid some habits that will keep you broke. There's 6 habits that will keep you broke. A, not talking about money, not talking about it around the kitchen table. We don't learn about it in school. If we're not learning about it at home, where are we learning about it? Our Jewish brothers and sisters, guess what their conversation is around the kitchen table and even in the synagogue? It's about business and money. Talk about money. Even beginning with kindergarten with your children, the basic principles that you can teach them about the importance of money. Another habit is failing to build an emergency fund. We've all learned that we need to save for a rainy day, but how about a pandemic? Nobody planned for that. Nobody predicted that. Yes, you should have at least 6 months of cash, available cash in your bank account to cover any expenses that might arise, and you're covered for at least 6 months. But you really want to do it's a little better than that. I hope that this taught you, because this pandemic, it's also going to be here, I would say, at least another year. The expert says we will not get back to normal for at least 3 years. So you're going to have to figure out how to develop a side hustle, if you will, how to make extra income. I don't think there should be a Black person in America with a single stream of income. In fact, that's one of the goals that we have for the Power Networking Conference, is helping you to double your streams of income. If you come to the conference with a single stream, by the time you leave, you'll have 2. If you come with 2, you'll have 4. If you have 4, we'll teach you how to have 8. The more you have, the more you can develop. Another habit is making impulse purchases. I talked about that earlier. Stop it, especially in this time. And then, of course, buying items that we don't need simply because they're on sale, right? Those are 4 habits. And the final 2 habits is paying bills late and the exorbitant interest rates that we have to pay, and paying the minimum on your credit cards. You'll never pay off your credit card paying the minimum. And the 6th bad habit that we have is the improper use of credit cards. Now, 15 years ago, I cut up all my credit cards. 15 years ago, I do not have any credit cards. I have debit cards, but they're attached to my checking account. And so therefore, I cannot spend anything that I do not have and can pay for immediately in my checking account. I am so glad I did that, because for years, like so many Americans, especially Black Americans, had all kinds of debt, credit card debt. Now, you want to build some passive income. And it's a real simple way to do that. You take your 9-to-5 income, and that will fuel your side hustle, whatever that may be. You may want to do overnight trading, whatever side hustle turns you on, and it generates some incremental income for you. That's a good thing. You want to do that. And then your side hustle will fuel your investments. So whatever income you earn from your side hustle find the proper instruments, vessels, and tools to invest in cryptocurrency, stocks, bonds, mutual, whatever turns you on. So your side hustle fuels your investments, and ultimately, if you do it right, your investments will in fact replace your job. Now, there's 7 streams of income you need to be focusing on. I have 6 of these streams. You should have at least 4 of these streams of income in your life. You may have to get it done over time. The first stream of income is earned income, income from working a job. The next stream of income is profit income, income from buying and selling stocks. I have that income. I'm sure a lot of you do as well. The third is interest income, income from lending money. Well, I don't lend money, so I don't earn any income from that. The fourth income is dividend income, and this is income from owning stocks. The fifth is rental income, income from renting apartments and renting homes. Many, many years ago, I had 7 or 8 2- and 3-family homes all in a row. And I made a fortune buying those homes for pennies on a dollar, refurbishing them, converting them into Section 8 housing, and being very selective about the families that I put in them, promising them that when I turned over those homes, they would have first option on buying them. And 15 years later, I did. And the tax savings and the write-offs and the profit earned from the prices that I paid for them and the prices that I sold them for were enormous. So rental income, capital gains income. Capital gains is assets that you purchase that increase in value, not diamonds. Diamonds don't increase in value. Not automobiles. That's a depreciating asset. What are you doing? And what kind of assets are you buying that are increasing in value? And finally, royalty income. Yes, every 6 months from HarperCollins and McGraw-Hill, I get residual income for the 6 books that I wrote. So what of those 7 streams of income are you invested in? What are you doing to change your financial state, brothers and sisters? This is critically important. We have to get this together. This is not that difficult, and this is something that we need to be focused on. The final couple of things is entrepreneurial thinking. It begins with entrepreneurial thinking. Taking risks, taking responsibility, and taking ownership in our own lives. No, for 20 years I had a job. I had me a good job because that's what my parents wanted us to do. My foster parents wanted us to get a good education and get a good job. That was the model for my generation, right? And to be like them and to dress like them and to comport ourselves like them and to speak the King's English like them. And that's what I did. 20 years, Procter Gamble, United Way, and the Ford Motor Company. I was not entrepreneurially thinking. It took a while for me to get to that mentality. And once you take risks and take responsibility and take ownership for your own life, once we have that kind of mindset, that can morph into entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurship is no joke. It is not for everybody, but you need a mindset that will help you get started. And then understand that when everything is ready, it's too late. Now, you've got to venture into things that perhaps are not quite where they need to be, but will be when in fact they are pushed along by you. All right. So to be successful in entrepreneurship is a very, very simple thing. Warren Buffett said this. He said, do what you love with the people that you love. Do what you love with the people that you love. The work that I'm doing in the community, all things Fraser Nation and FraserNet, are things that I'm doing with people that I love. Hundreds of people. And I'm constantly looking for new opportunity, new categories of business that I could invest in. That's what entrepreneurial thinking does. What are some of the new businesses out here that you can make a lot of money? Esports. I don't have time to unpack esports. Google it. It's going to be larger than the movie industry, the cannabis industry. Let's not just smoke it. Let's not make the same mistake the baby boomers made about liquor stores back in the 50s and 60s. There was a liquor store and a church on every corner, and all we did was drink the liquor. They owned the stores. There were almost no black liquor store owners. And 100% of the consumers of those liquor stores in the hood were us. Let's flip the script on that. Cannabis is a huge multi-billion-dollar opportunity. Fintech, financial technology, everything in finance is going where? To the cell phone. So if you have the propensity to write code, if you like technology, financial technology is a huge new business opportunity. Blockchain, I talked about Bitcoin and Ethereum and there's thousands of this new cryptocurrency. Huge opportunity in cryptocurrency. Everything is moving in that direction. Big data analytics. You got that kind of mind? You can take courses and get certifications in analyzing big data. $1 billion industry. Huge opportunity. Robotics. Even if you don't build the robots, you can maintain the robots. Right? Just like we have automobile services. We don't make the automobiles, but a lot of brothers and sisters are in the automobile maintenance service. Same thing with robotics. The same thing with electric cars. Huge opportunities. Everything is going electric. There's an opportunity to repair them, to fix them, even to be really innovative and make them. All right? And then, of course, online education. Virtual everything. Don't believe it for 1 minute that once the pandemic is over, we're going to go back to non-virtual. Oh, no, no, no. This is here to stay. You better set up your home or your office as a studio, because much of the information that we'll be communicating to each other in our bunny slippers and bathrobe will be just like this. And as they build out more sophisticated platforms to do this, you might be wearing goggles at the next virtual conference so that you can feel like you're actually walking among people. So, unlimited opportunities. Unlimited opportunities. Here's a marketing tip. If you use your money to create exceptional products, you don't need to spend it on ads. People will find you if the product is exceptional. People don't buy goods and services, if you really think about it. They buy relationships, stories, and the magic that you bring to their life, and the value-added benefits that come with it. That's what they buy. Final little marketing tip that I have had to learn over time is don't find customers for your products. Find products for your customers. Invent those products. Try to anticipate the need, right? And you will be very, 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 very successful. I promise you that. Just chart the course and stay the course. We're trending in terms of businesses that we're building. No question about it. The last 5-year reporting period by the U.S. Census Bureau on entrepreneurial development by cultural group showed that there are 2.6 million Black-owned businesses now. That's up 35%. That's the upside. 60% of those new businesses are Black women. Women, again, are outdoing Black men. They're developing most of the new businesses. That's the upside. The downside is only 111,000 of our 2.6 million businesses employ anybody. Those who employ people, their business is up 17%, and their average annual revenue is $1.3 million a year, and that's up 82% over the last 5-year reporting period. So that means if 2.59 million of our businesses are sole proprietorships. Sole proprietorships are up 125%. Most of that's Black women. But the average annual revenue of sole proprietorships is about $18,700 a year, and that's down 11%. What does that mean? It means you either grow or die. I've said for many years, by the end of the 21st century, Black people must become the #1 employer of their own people. As Jews are the #1 employer of Jews, Asians are the #1 employer of Asians, East Indians are the #1 employer of East Indians, Arabs are the #1 employer of Arabs. We too must ultimately become the #1 employer of our own people. We have to employ our people. And you're going to grow your business by employing people. Finally, and I don't really have to say much on this, and this is a gospel and something I've been preaching about for years. Stop being a spectator to success, brothers and sisters. Being angry is not a business plan. You need a strategy and not just emotions. You must effectively use relationship capital. This is biblical too. You cannot build anything worth talking about on your own by yourself in a vacuum. John 5:30, a direct quote from Jesus Christ. 800,000 words in the Bible, and only 1,100 of those words are direct quotes from Jesus Christ. John 5:30, and Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. Now this was Jesus. Jesus couldn't get it done on his own by himself in a vacuum. So what's up with you? You are going to have to develop relationships and build 3 kinds of networks: a personal network, an operational network, and a strategic network. You're going to work on those through all passages of your life. A personal network of people who love you, cheer you on, lift you up. Let's call that your network at home. An operational network of people who help you to get specific tasks done in life as you help them to get specific tasks done in life, and they platoon in and out of your life through every passage of your life. That's an operational network. And then your strategic network. These are the people that are smarter than you. These are the people that will drag you into the 21st century kicking, screaming, and crying. These are the people that will ultimately be your mentors and coaches. These are the people that will reach down and lift up and reach back and pull forward. You've got to develop your relationship capital and to spend it wisely. You are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And the fastest way to change yourself is to hang out with people who are already where you want to be in life. What am I saying to you? Don't spend major time with minor people. People going nowhere want you to go nowhere with them. People doing nothing want you to do nothing with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationships. If you are not where you want to be in life, it is because you don't have the right people in your life. That's a whole subject by itself. It's one of the main subjects of the Power Networking Conference. That's why it's called Power Networking. You got to have a system for effectively networking. Part of reinventing your life, part of sort of growing, is understanding and dealing with the obstacles necessary for you to grow in life. Yes, obstacles. If it was easy, why would God need you? No, you're going to have obstacles. Welcome to life. This is why reinvention is important. My favorite quote outside of the Bible is one by Marcus Aurelius, one of the 5 great Caesars. And it was Marcus Aurelius who said that the impediment to action advances the action. What stands in your way becomes the way. I love that. Let me say that differently. The obstacle is the way. Where there is no obstacle, there is no way. What is the first thing God does when he gives you an assignment that he feels that you are ready for? He puts an obstacle in your way. And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under the obstacle. And when you do, you get an attaboy and an attagirl because you've learned the lessons necessary that for you to grow, the lessons that God wants you to learn at that moment in time. And then God gives you a new assignment at a slightly higher level that he feels that you're ready for. And then what's the next thing God does? He puts an obstacle in your way. And your job is to find a way over, around, through, and under that obstacle. And when you look back over your life, that's your entire life. That is the life of Black people in America. 400 years of obstacles that we have had to overcome. And I've traveled every place that Black people have been dispersed. I've been to South Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, South America, and all over the Caribbean. And there are no Black people in the entire world smarter and more successful on per capita basis than Black people in America. But we have to overcome obstacles to achieve that kind of intellectual capital that can serve the entire Pan-African diaspora of 1.6 billion people. Yes, Africa has 70% of the most important minerals in the world, but they can't even get it out of the ground themselves. They have to bring in the Chinese and the Arabs, and they can't get the diamonds out of the mine. They work the mines, but they're owned by others that don't look like them. They rent out, but they pay a heavy price for the intellectual science and engineering know-how to grow their resources. We can help them with that. We paid a hell of a price for that. And we overcame the obstacles. As you're overcoming the obstacles, obstacles are good. Finally, I don't know how old you are. I don't know what passage you are in life. I don't know what you've done with your life. I know that no matter how old you are or where you are in your climb, it's not too late. Oh, it's not too late. I promise you. As an elder, I'm telling you, it is not too late. There was an interesting study done by the New England Journal of Medicine 2 years ago. Massive study. And the study reaped or resulted in identifying the 3 most productive periods in your life. And here's what it found. And you can Google the study. The 3rd most productive period of your life is between 50 and 60. The 2nd most productive period in your life is between 70 and 80. I'm 75, and this is one of the most productive periods of my life. And the 1st most productive period in your life is between 60 and 70. So number 3 is between 50 and 60. Number 2 is between 70 and 80, and number 1 is between 60 and 70. The average age of a Nobel Prize winner is 62. The average age of a CEO of a Fortune 500 company is 63. The average age of the pastor of the 100 largest churches in America is in fact 71. Moses was 80 when God gave him his assignment. The average age of a pope is 76 years old. Mandela became president at 76. Ray Kroc really didn't begin building McDonald's until he was nearly 60 years old. Toni Morrison won her Pulitzer at nearly 60, and then she won her Nobel Prize at 62 years old. Frank Lloyd Wright, I love architecture. He was one of the great architects in the history of the world. He built the Guggenheim Museum, his magnum opus, on 54th Street and 5th Avenue in New York City. I watched it being built growing up and running the streets of New York as a child. He completed his magnum opus at 91 years old. So if you think about this, this tells us that somehow God has designed all of us so that the best years of our lives is between 60 and 80. You ain't done nothing yet. If you're under 50, you're still learning. You're still growing, stumbling, learning the lessons necessary for you really to do your thing. I'm urging you to chart a good and righteous course and stay that course, and then all that is due you will come to you. These are some of the things that I had to overcome. These are some of the things that I had to learn in the reinvention of George Fraser over now 8 passages in life. You are no different. Your journey may be different. The things that you have to learn will be different in the time frames in which you learn those. But fundamentally, we're all going to walk similar paths in terms of the big rocks and the big things that we have to put into our lives and grow and reinvent ourselves. Brothers and sisters, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Again, I want to thank the happy entrepreneur, Shay Brown, for allowing this incredible platform year after year, expert after expert. I don't know how we would really get the kind of this kind of information without this kind of love from a single person who takes the initiative to make it happen. Thank you, Shay Brown, and thank all of you for listening. And don't forget that we have a virtual power networking conference, October 28th through the 30th. I want to make you a special offer. It's $297. There's a virtual conference going on right now. That's $2,500. Ours is better than that. We're $297. I want to see you at the Power Networking Conference next year. Yes, it's going to be live next year, July 14th through the 17th in Houston, Texas. We're planning for that, God willing. So I want to make you a special offer. I want to close with this offer. I want to give you the live conference, which is $1,500 for an adult and $800 for a student. $1,500 for an adult, $800, that's $2,300, and we encourage you to bring a student. And I want to give you the virtual conference coming up shortly. That would be $2,600. I want to reduce that to $499. I want to reduce it to $499. That's a $2,100 discount for being smart enough to be watching The Happy Entrepreneur. The only way you can get this is through me. You have to go to my not my website, go to my email address, right? You have to email me at gfraser@frasernet.com. That's gfraser@frasernet.com. That's gfraser@frasernet.com. That's F-R-A-S as in Sam, E-R. In the subject line, say, I'm in the subject line. And then in the body of the email, put your full name and your cell number, your full name and your cell number, your full name and your cell number. And for $4.99, you can get this $2,600 package. Time is limited. It's limited to the first 25 people. I will personally call you, take your information over the phone. We'll handle it by credit card. I will personally call you. gfraser@frasernet.com. That's our offer for the live conference next year and the virtual conference coming up. God bless you and keep doing God's work.